History repeats itself. Some of you may have already heard, but an artist named Maurizio Cattelan duct-taped a banana to a wall and called it the comedian. While that in itself isn't terribly noteworthy, what is noteworthy is that this piece then sold for a whopping $120,000. If that isn't ridiculous enough, he did it again, and once again, the piece sold for $120,000. He didn't stop there, though. He did it a third time and sold the piece for $150,000. For those of you keeping count, this genius managed to transform 3 bananas and about 2 feet of duct tape into $390,000. So, the comedian may have made him laugh loudest of all. Worth noting, do you guys remember that solid gold toilet titled America from a few years ago? The one that was fully functional and made entirely of 18-karat gold? That piece was also crafted by Maurizio Cattelan, just in case you guys were wondering who this guy is. The marvel of this modern-day alchemy aside, the real value of this piece as art, and whether $120,000 is too much to pay, could be debated. Galerie Perrotin, the gallery where the banana was displayed, stated that Cattelan had actually been working on the piece for a year. Earlier iterations of the piece had a banana cast in resin or bronze, but eventually he settled on the real, and the astute among you might note, edible fruit. The gallery went on to say that without the artist's stamp, it's just a banana. Anyway, a performance artist named David Datena ripped one of these pieces off of the gallery wall and ate it in front of a stunned group of modern art fans.
Art performance. Art performance. Hungry artist. Yep. We respect Maurizio, but it's art performance, hungry artist. To the gallery. Thank you, very good.
So it turns out it was just a banana either way. He was, predictably, walked away from the exhibit by a flabbergasted curator who insisted,
Excuse me.
like an absolute king, he turned back to the crowd and said,
See you after jail, guys.
a new banana was later loaned to the gallery as a replacement for display purposes. Now, personally, I think that art as a commodity is and has been for decades, if not centuries, a tax evasion and money laundering scheme for the ultra-rich, but that's not the point of the video. The title of the video is History Repeats Itself. So, let's go back in time to 1915, over 100 years ago, when almost the exact same thing happened. We call it modern art, but it's been this way for a long time. Marcel Duchamp was an artist who pioneered the field of found art. He was a visionary and, I might add, one of my favorite artists ever. You could draw a few parallels from Cattelan to Duchamp, not least among which would be the fact that both artists gained quite a bit of notoriety for their declaration of a plumbing fixture as art. Remember that urinal that was displayed on its side, signed, titled Fountain, and then was accepted as modern art in 1917? That was Marcel Duchamp, but that isn't the piece that I'm interested in telling you guys about. That urinal was what was called a ready-made, a pre-made object that is displayed in a novel manner inconsistent with its original purpose. Cattelan's The Comedian is a more recent example of a ready-made. Marcel Duchamp had grown wary of the dominance of retinal art, intended to please only the eye. So he moved to America in 1915 and continued his pursuit of an art form later known as Dada. Dada was intended to please the mind and not just the eye, using irony, the nonsensical presentation of unrelated ideas, and humor. That same year, he grabbed a snow shovel, painted Marcel Duchamp 1915 on the handle, and called it In Advance of the Broken Arm. He hung this snow shovel up on a hook. This is the first of his ready-mades. Bicycle Wheel was made earlier, but is not a true ready-made as the artist altered the original object rather than simply displaying it as is. Regrettably, there is very little information that remains published on the subject of what happened to this shovel, and the shovel is not even listed among Duchamp's notable works. 9 of Duchamp's 10 ready-mades were eventually lost, and In Advance of the Broken Arm was one of them. The story goes that during a particularly nasty blizzard, a janitor who was unable to find his snow shovel but needed something to clear the walkway simply took down the snow shovel from its perch on the wire and, after using it to clear the walkway, failed to return it to its display hook. It was never seen again. A replica was later produced by Duchamp, but the original is forever lost. 140 years later, we've had the same sort of situation, but with a banana rather than with a shovel. History repeats itself. Maybe in another 100 years, someone will hang a $5 bill from a fishing hook and value it at several million, only to have someone take it down and push it into a nearby vending machine. I can only hope that the people of 2125 are as capable of reflecting on the incident and drawing connections with the past. But most importantly, I hope they laugh.